This is insane. This is unbelievable. Whatever you want to call it, the New York Jets are linked to multiple different quarterbacks over the offseason, and one of their executives has revealed who he wants to see the New York Jets select, which would have Jets fans fired up, as the Jets would then be put out of position to land one of the top quarterbacks in the 2026 NFL Draft. And we're going to break all of it down. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris here, and we're going to jump right into things as always. And if you guys are enjoying the content, make sure to subscribe. If you guys are part of that 79% who's not subscribed, this is the place to be for all New York Jets content with the offseason and free agency and the draft. A bunch of fun stuff is upcoming. You guys don't want to miss out on any of our content, but let's jump into the video, guys. The New York Jets, they've been linked to multiple different outlets for a quarterback going in to next season. The New York Jets, well, they hired a new regime with GM Darren Mougey being the head guy of making the choice on who the New York Jets should move forward with. They decided to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, that's a rebuild move, as Davante Adams will also go, Allen Lazard will go, and the New York Jets will essentially start over once again. And, well, Garrett Wilson seemed happy about this, but it still means that the Jets have to find Garrett Wilson a quarterback, and there's a few different outlets. They could select a bridge guy and effectively go with someone like a Jameis Winston or a Justin Fields as a bridge guy for a year, while the Jets hopefully can tank and get one of the top two quarterback options in the 2026 draft, and Arch Manning and Nico Iamaleava. And that's what I would like to see the New York Jets do. I know it sucks to watch tanking football, but it's just the move the Jets absolutely should be making at this point of where they're at. It just makes the most sense to me for the Jets to sort of forego trying to succeed this year and just take the tanking season, eat it, and try to find a franchise quarterback, as that is the most important position in all of American sports, and it's the one position the Jets have not been able to solidify for my entire life, which is just wonderful. So the Jets absolutely should find a way to just move on and essentially tank the year. But we do have an interesting update, as one of the Jets' head front office members Rick Spielman has revealed who he wants to see the team go after, and this is a draft pick move, as Rick Spielman revealed that he likes Jaxson Dart a lot, and he's better and better, and it just looks like the position of quarterback comes naturally to him. Well, the New York Jets recently hired Rick Spielman to their front office. Spielman's part of the 33rd team, the consulting firm that helped the New York Jets find their GM in Darren Mougey and their head coach in Aaron Glenn. So the Jets do trust Spielman a lot, who was the GM for the Minnesota Vikings for 9 years, and he had a questionable tenure. It wasn't bad. It was full of some good moves and also a few bad moves as well. It was a very mixed bag that Spielman gave out, but the Vikings did stay a mainly solid team throughout Spielman's tenure. And while Spielman, one of the reasons why he ended up leaving the Vikings was disagreements over draft prospects, and it got him fired from the Vikings role a couple of years back, and now he's adding his 2 cents into things. Now, he said this is not his job. He's here, and he's not taking over for Mougey or for Glenn. That's their role, and he's just there for advice and stuff like that. Mougey's a first-time GM, so he can go to Spielman and ask advice the same way that Aaron Glenn's brought in a bunch of veteran head coaches. So essentially, when he needs to turn to someone, he absolutely can, who has experience in the role and knows what is expected and what to do in certain situations that, well, Mougey and Glenn just can't know because they've never done this before. And that's fine. That happens with every job, and it's nothing to worry about. The Jets have a new regime, and they're trying to make things work, and Spielman's a good voice to have in the front office. But he's mainly not even going to be in New Jersey. He's going to be a remote worker mainly for the Jets. But he is going to give his input on what he would like for the team and what he thinks is the right move. And for the New York Jets, he thinks that it is Jaxson Dart. Wherever Jaxson Dart is, there's Jaxson Dart. He believes the Ole Miss quarterback is the guy to go with. Now, me and Matt have both agreed that this is not a good idea. I've spoken on it. Matt's spoken on it. It just doesn't make sense. He ran a very simple offense at Ole Miss that just would not fly in the NFL. And on top of that, there's just a litany of other things where essentially, why would we draft a quarterback this year when there's a bunch of elite defenders? And this would probably not be a guy who they'd pick 7th overall because they'd be able to get him in the 2nd round most likely. But it is interesting. I mean, the first 2 quarterbacks in Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward should be off the board by the time the New York Jets are selecting. So the Jets will have a chance to draft one of the elite defensive prospects or Will Campbell or just a few different positions that they would not even necessarily say need more than quarterback, but can set up so they can get a better quarterback down the line. So that would make some sense as well. But we'll see what the New York Jets essentially want to do. Jaxson Dart has played 4 years in college, 1 year in USC, and then 3 years at Ole Miss. And he had a lot of success at Ole Miss. I mean, he led his conference. He led the SEC in yards, in completion percentage, and yards per attempt. And, I mean, just in QB rating and basically every stat under the sun. Like, Dart had good moments in college, and he looked very successful. He's an above-average athlete. He's got a good arm, and because of that, there's been Josh Allen comparisons like no tomorrow. However, it feels lazy to compare him to Josh Allen. Jaxson Dart is not Josh Allen. He's not a 6'5" super athlete. He's just a good athlete. So it's kind of a lazy comparison, if you ask me. But it is something that has been thought of by a lot of people watching and people who are fans of Jaxson Dart. And, well, Spielman's one of the people in Jaxson Dart's camp or in the camp of people who are fans of Jaxson Dart. And he said, I'm going to say this. I don't know if there's another first-round quarterback after the first two in Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, but the way Bo Nix started to surge last year coming out of this game, I would not be surprised if Jaxson Dart ends up in the first round. And he also, according to Rich Cimini, mentioned that they could keep an eye on Jaxson Dart at Ole Miss, as he does intrigue the Jets as well. So it does appear that Darren Mougey is at least somewhat listening to Rick Spielman in this process, and Mougey is taking what Spielman's saying into consideration, but also they might just separately be interested in Jaxson Dart as well. And look, you don't draft Jaxson Dart 7th overall. You absolutely do not do that. There's way too many good prospects who are going to be available at the 7th overall slot that picking Jaxson Dart is sheer malpractice and should have 95% of the Jets fan base turned on the front office basically instantly. And I think they kind of know that, and I don't know if they'll end up doing that. And he's not worth the pick at all, so I don't think the Jets front office is stupid enough to do this, but it definitely is worrisome. I mean, we haven't really seen anything from this front office, and we'll get a good look into what their draft plans are based on what they do in free agency. They need to find a quarterback of some sort. They have 2 on roster right now. And it could be Tyrod Taylor, who's the starting quarterback as a bridge guy next year, which I don't hate the idea of. It could be Jordan Travis, which I like the idea better of, because either Jordan Travis plays well, and that's a good sign, or he doesn't play well, and the Jets can kind of really know that Jordan Travis isn't the answer, and they can move forwards. And that also does help out the Jets, especially because they would lose a ton of games in the process. But things do get interesting. I mean, you look at what PFF recently had for the Jets mock draft, or for the mock draft and where the Jets were, with the Jets picking Cam Ward at 7th. It would be surprising to see Cam Ward fall this far, given he probably should. There's a lot of different guys. I just keep making my hair worse and worse throughout this video. I'm just like trying to adjust it the best I can, and it just keeps looking worse. But the Jets with Cam Ward, I mean, I just don't think Cam Ward's going to be here. But as PFF said, with the Jets moving on from veteran quarterback Aaron Rodgers, selecting Ward gives him a new signal caller and face of the franchise. He'll step into a situation with a top wide receiver already in place. With new head coach Aaron Glenn will look to build a strong defense to support the young quarterback. I would say Ward's the best quarterback in the draft, but I don't love him. He's turnover prone, which doesn't really change at the NFL level too often. And nothing else really sticks out a lot about Cam Ward. He's a solid option, but it just feels like they're better off waiting till next year. The team's probably not winning many games next year anyway, so it's likely they just do what the Lions did and have a little bit of a overhaul and building up from the ground. And yeah, you lose a lot of games that first season, but you build through the draft, you build through free agency, you create that culture, and then that second, third year around, things start to get good. Or at least that was the Lions' game plan, and I expect the Jets to try to follow that, considering how intrigued they've been in what the Lions have done. So we'll see what the Jets do there. And Cam Ward is also a solid player. 3 years at college, 2 at Washington State in the Pac-12, and then 1 at Miami. And he was good at Miami, led the ACC in touchdowns, had a lot of good moments, also led the ACC in a few other stats, including quarterback ratings. So there is a lot to like about Cam Ward. I understand why people like these quarterbacks, but I just don't think that these quarterbacks are the move. I think it's very obvious to wait till next year, lose a bunch of games, get a top 2 pick, and pick Arch or Nico. Let me know what you think down below. Like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Have a great day, and go Jets.